Something shifted, and you could feel it before you could even explain it. For weeks, maybe even months, the internet had been getting louder, more aggressive, more obsessive, while NBA YoungBoy did the exact opposite. He stayed silent. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal. Rumors always exist online. They start small, random comments buried under posts, little jokes that feel disposable, things people say just to get a reaction. But this time, those whispers didn't fade. They grew. What started as a few scattered comments turned into full conversations. Conversations turned into debates. And debates, they turned into something much bigger, something uncontrollable. TikTok videos started pulling in millions of views. Twitter threads exploded overnight. People who weren't even fans suddenly had opinions. And at the center of it all was one question that refused to go away. Is there something he's not telling us? Now here's where things got strange. Because every time the noise reached a new level, people expected a response. A tweet, a post, a live stream, something, anything to shut it down. But instead, nothing. Just silence. And that silence didn't calm anything down. It did the opposite. It amplified everything. Because when someone that visible chooses not to speak, the internet doesn't stop. It fills in the blanks. And once that happens, the narrative is no longer in their control. People started digging. Old clips resurfaced. Moments that once meant nothing suddenly meant everything. A laugh from a live stream, a reaction in an interview, a split-second expression caught on camera. Individually, they were meaningless. Together, they became evidence. And that's how it always starts, not with facts, but with perception. Because once people think they've found a pattern, they don't stop looking. They start connecting dots that were never meant to connect. Compilation videos started flooding timelines, slow-motion edits, zoom-ins, voice tone analysis, body language breakdowns like it was a courtroom case instead of a celebrity rumor. Comments shifted too. Y'all not seeing this? This been right in front of us. Go back and listen again. And just like that, the rumor cycle locked in. But this wasn't the first time NBA YoungBoy had been at the center of chaos. His career has always lived in that space between reality and controversy. Legal battles, relationship drama, industry tension. His name trending wasn't new. What was new was the nature of this conversation. This wasn't about music. This wasn't about beef. This was personal. And personal narratives move faster than anything else online. As more people joined the discussion, the tone started to shift. Some treated it like entertainment, others treated it like investigation, and a growing number of people treated it like truth, even without proof. Then came the turning point. A clip. Short, casual, nothing dramatic on the surface. The kind of moment that normally would have passed without attention. But timing changes everything. Because once that clip got attached to the rumors, it transformed. People didn't hear it the same way anymore. They replayed it, slowed it down, listened for hidden meaning. Did you catch that? He didn't deny it. That sounded different. Now suddenly, the internet had something tangible, not confirmation, but something close enough to argue about. And argue they did. Fan pages started running polls. Reaction channels dissected every word. Even people who had never followed him were suddenly part of the conversation. But through all of it, one thing stayed the same. Silence. No clarification, no denial, no explanation. And that's when the narrative split in two. On one side, you had people saying the rumors were ridiculous, that he was staying quiet because it wasn't even worth addressing. That responding would only make it bigger. On the other side, people who believed the silence meant something else entirely. Something deeper. And once those two sides formed, the internet stopped being a discussion. It became a battlefield. Every old interview became evidence. Every lyric became a clue. Every past moment was reinterpreted through this new lens. And the more people argued, the stronger the narrative became. Until out of nowhere, everything changed. Because the clip dropped, the one people are now calling his response. But here's what made it different. It didn't look like a response. It wasn't posted with context. It wasn't labeled. There was no announcement. It just appeared. And within minutes, it was everywhere. For the first time since the rumors started, it felt like NBA YoungBoy had finally said something. But instead of ending the conversation, it detonated it. Because what he said didn't clearly confirm anything. And it didn't clearly deny anything either. It lived in that dangerous middle space, the kind of statement that depends entirely on how you hear it. Some people replayed it and said, "That's a denial." Others heard the exact same words and said, "That's basically confirmation." Same clip, two completely different realities. And that's when things spiraled. Because once interpretation becomes the main focus, the truth almost stops mattering. It's no longer about what was said, it's about what people believe was said. And belief spreads faster than facts. Now timelines were flooded again, but this time it wasn't just speculation, it was analysis, frame-by-frame breakdowns, audio enhancements, people trying to decode tone, intent, meaning. The conversation had evolved. This wasn't rumor anymore. This was full-blown controversy. And the most unsettling part, there was still no clear answer. Because the more people listened, the more divided they became. Every argument created new questions. Every theory opened the door to 3 more. And right in the middle of all this chaos, he stayed quiet again. No follow-up, no clarification, no attempt to control the narrative that was now completely out of his hands. And that silence, it hit differently this time. Because now it didn't feel like ignoring the noise. It felt like letting it exist. Letting people argue, letting them interpret, letting the story grow on its own. And whether that was intentional or not, it worked. Because now the internet isn't just asking what's true. They're asking what it means. Did he address it or avoid it? Did he clear things up or make it worse? Was that clip the truth or just another layer of confusion? And maybe the biggest question of all, did he know exactly what he was doing by saying it that way? Because in a world where attention is everything, ambiguity can be more powerful than clarity. And right now, the entire internet is locked into one moment, replaying the same words over and over, trying to figure out something that might not have a clear answer at all. Because sometimes, the loudest response isn't what you say. It's what you leave open for interpretation. And if that's the case here, then what we've seen so far might just be the beginning of something even bigger. Something shifted, and this time it didn't creep in slowly. It hit all at once. The moment that clip of NBA YoungBoy started circulating, the internet didn't just react, it locked in. Instantly. No warm-up, no gradual build, just pure, chaotic attention. Everyone was watching, but more importantly, everyone was rewatching. Because the clip itself, it wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud, it wasn't even structured like a statement. It felt casual, almost throwaway, the kind of moment that normally gets ignored within hours. But this one didn't. Because in those few seconds, he said something that didn't land the same way for everyone. Some people heard a denial, clear, simple, nothing to debate. Others heard something completely different, something indirect, something that didn't shut anything down but instead danced around it. And that was enough. Because the second confusion enters the conversation, The internet doesn't slow down, it speeds up. Now it wasn't about what he said, it was about what he meant. People started dissecting every detail. The tone, the pacing, the pauses between words, even the way he looked at the camera became part of the breakdown. Clips got slowed down, audio got cleaned up, side-by-side comparisons started popping up everywhere. Old interviews versus new footage, past behavior versus present reactions. And just like that, a simple clip turned into a full-scale investigation. Debates exploded across platforms. This is clearly a denial. No, he didn't actually say anything direct. He's being smart about it. He's avoiding it on purpose. And the more people argued, the more the moment grew. Because that's how it works now. Attention feeds itself. But just when it felt like the conversation couldn't get any louder, someone found something that changed everything. An older clip. Not new, not trending before, just sitting there unnoticed until now. And once people connected it to the current situation, the entire narrative shifted again. Because suddenly, this wasn't just one moment anymore. It was a pattern. People started saying things like, "Wait, he's been talking like this," and that's when things got dangerous. Because once people believe they've found a pattern, they stop questioning whether it's real. They start building around it. Now the internet had two clips, two moments, two pieces of evidence. And when you give millions of people multiple points to connect, they don't hesitate. They draw the lines themselves. The story got louder, faster, more intense. But then came the twist nobody was ready for. A voice note. Out of nowhere. Low quality, unverified, no confirmed source, but it sounded close enough. Close enough to feel real. In that audio, the voice, calm, slightly frustrated, said something that instantly got pulled into the narrative. People gonna say what they want anyway. I ain't gotta explain myself to Nobo. Die. And just like that, the situation escalated again. Because now it wasn't just about the clips. It was about the audio too. Was it real? Was it fake? Was it recent? Or was it just another old piece being repurposed? Nobody knew. But that didn't matter. Because belief moves faster than truth. One side was convinced, that's him, he addressed it. The other side pushed back, that's fake, y'all just reaching. And right in the middle of all this noise, something else quietly started trending. A sentence. Simple, sharp, repeated everywhere. He never actually denied it. That line spread like wildfire. Because it didn't rely on proof, it relied on perception. And once people started repeating it, it became something more than an opinion. It became a narrative. Now the conversation wasn't about what was said. It was about what wasn't said. And that silence, it started to feel louder than anything else. But the moment that truly pushed everything over the edge came next. A live session. Unannounced, unexpected. And for the first time, people thought they were about to get clarity. Thousands joined instantly, comments flying, questions flooding in. Everyone waiting for one thing, a direct answer. At first, it seemed like it might happen. He was calm, relaxed, talking like nothing was wrong. Then he paused, looked directly at the camera, and said something. Not a denial, not a confirmation, not even a clear statement. Just something. Something that sounded like a message, but didn't land the same for everyone listening. And then just like that, he moved on. Changed the topic. Like none of it ever mattered. That was the breaking point. Because now the confusion turned into frustration. Why not just say it clearly? What is he avoiding? Or does he just not care? And that last question, that's where the divide deepened. Because now this wasn't just about rumors anymore. It was about interpretation. And interpretation is where things spiral. Because when millions of people are trying to decide what something means, you don't get one version of the story. You get hundreds, each one shaped by bias, belief, and perspective. Each one feeling real to the person who believes it. And that's exactly what happened. The situation stopped being about facts, stopped being about truth. It became about perception. And once that happens, control disappears. But just when it felt like everything had already reached its peak, it didn't. Because a new rumor started spreading. Quieter at first, but heavier, more personal, more layered, something deeper than everything before. Now people weren't just asking about the clips. They were asking about what it meant beyond the surface. And if even a small part of that rumor is true, then everything we've seen so far. That's just the beginning. Because now this isn't just internet noise. This is something bigger. Clip stacking, audio circulating, live moments being dissected. And the conversation, it's no longer just with fans. It's reached the industry. And when the industry starts paying attention, the stakes change. Because at that level, it's not about who's right or wrong. It's about image, control, narrative. And right now, the narrative. It's completely out of control. And just when it felt like the situation couldn't get any louder, it shifted again, but this time in a way nobody saw coming. Because out of nowhere, the noise didn't just come from fans anymore. It came from the culture itself. Subtle at first, almost easy to miss if you weren't paying attention, but the timing, way too precise to ignore. Artists, influencers, bloggers, voices that usually stay quiet during chaotic internet moments suddenly had something to say, not directly, not naming names, but the energy behind their words felt targeted. One rapper posted, "Y'all gotta stop forcing narratives on people's lives." An influencer followed up, "If someone don't speak on something, that don't mean what you think it mean." No names, no tags, no direct references. But it didn't matter. Because once the internet decides what something is about, that becomes the reality. And instantly, everything got pulled right back to NBA YoungBoy. Now the conversation wasn't just happening, it was evolving. Because when influential voices enter the chat, the stakes change. This isn't just random debate anymore. This is narrative shaping in real time. Blogs picked it up faster. Headlines got sharper, more aggressive. This wasn't being framed as rumors anymore. Now it was controversy. And the moment that word enters the conversation, everything gets heavier. Because controversy doesn't just sit online. It spreads, it builds, it attracts attention from places the original moment never even reached. But just when it seemed like the situation had already hit its peak, another twist dropped. And this one hit different. Because it didn't come from a fan. It didn't come from a blog. It came from someone claiming to be close to the situation. An insider. Not a troll, not a random account. Someone presenting themselves as having real access to YoungBoy's circle at some point. And what they said didn't confirm anything. It didn't deny anything either. Instead, it introduced a completely different angle. "Y'all focusing on the wrong thing. This ain't even about that." That one line changed everything. Because now the question was what's true. It became, what are we missing? According to this so-called insider, the situation wasn't about identity. It wasn't about the rumors dominating timelines. It was about pressure. Pressure from the internet. Pressure from expectations. Pressure from millions of people constantly analyzing, judging, and trying to define someone's life based on fragments, clips, moments, interpretations. And for a second, that explanation actually made sense. Because if you rewind everything, this entire situation didn't start with facts. It started with perception. People seeing something, interpreting it, repeating it, building on it, until it became something bigger than the original moment itself. But just as things began to slow, just as some people started stepping back and reconsidering everything, another clip surfaced, and this one changed the tone completely. Different energy, different mood. No jokes, no casual vibe, no room for misinterpretation in the feeling, even if the words were still unclear. In this clip, NBA YoungBoy looked straight at the camera, and what people noticed instantly wasn't what he said. It was how he looked. Tired, frustrated, done, like someone who had been watching everything unfold and had reached a breaking point. He said something short, direct, but still not clear enough to end the conversation. And that's what made it hit even harder. Because now, for the first time, the focus shifted. Not on the words, on the emotion. Fans started reacting differently. He looked fed up. Y'all pushing him to the point he don't even want to speak. This what happens when the internet goes too far. And for a brief moment, something rare happened. People paused. Not defending, not accusing. Just questioning everything. But that moment didn't last long. Because on the other side of the conversation, the reaction was immediate and just as intense. This don't change nothing. He still ain't deny it. Emotion don't equal innocence. And just like that, the divide got even deeper. This wasn't just two sides anymore. It was layers, different interpretations, different beliefs, different realities, all built from the same exact clips. And right in the middle of all this chaos, something else started spreading. Quietly, not loud like the others, but more dangerous. A new rumor that there might be more footage, more clips, more moments that haven't been seen yet. And if that's true, then everything people are arguing about right now, that's just the surface. Because situations like this don't just stop. They evolve, they grow, they escalate. And suddenly, the biggest question wasn't about the rumors anymore. It was about what comes next. Because if another clip drops, if another insider speaks, if anything new surfaces, this doesn't just stay controversial. It goes completely out of control. And just when it felt like the tension couldn't rise any higher, whispers started spreading about something even bigger. A final response. Not vague, not indirect, not open to interpretation, but clear, direct, definitive. And if that actually happens, everything changes. Because a real response only does one of two things. It either shuts everything down completely, or it makes everything 10 times bigger. And based on how this situation has been moving, there's no version of this that ends quietly. Because now we've reached the breaking point. The moment where the internet doesn't just react. It goes to war. Every platform became a battlefield. Twitter threads exploding. TikTok flooded with breakdowns. YouTube filled with reaction videos dropping every minute. And at the center of all of it, NBA YoungBoy. But the craziest part, nobody agrees on anything. One side is defending him hard. This getting out of hand. Y'all forcing narratives. He don't owe nobody an explanation. And this isn't just support, it's organized. Fan pages mobilizing. Reporting posts. Calling out accounts. Dropping compilation videos trying to debunk everything. Breaking clips down frame by frame. Looking for inconsistencies. trying to prove the entire narrative is built on assumptions. But on the other side, the energy is just as strong. This ain't random anymore. He had chances to clear it up. Silence speaks louder than anything. And just like that, the internet split into two completely different realities. No middle ground. No neutral space. You're either defending him or questioning everything. And once it gets to that point, there's no turning back. But then it escalated even further, because now bigger voices started stepping in. In no direct callouts, but the timing, too perfect. A major streamer said during a live session, people be reading into stuff too much, but sometimes people not saying nothing for a reason. Clipped, posted everywhere, instantly connected back to YoungBoy. Then another influencer dropped, "We gotta let people live, not everything needs a label." And just like that, the conversation shifted again. Because now it wasn't just about what was said. It was about whether anything needed to be said at all. And that's where this situation becomes something bigger than a rumor. Because now it's not just about one person. It's about how narratives are created, how silence gets interpreted, how millions of people can watch the same moment and walk away with completely different truths. And right now, there's only one thing everyone agrees on. This isn't over. And just like that, the conversation didn't just continue, it transformed into something much bigger than anyone expected. What started as speculation, clips, and scattered opinions suddenly crossed into deeper territory. This wasn't just about one artist anymore. It became a debate about identity, privacy, and the boundaries the internet refuses to respect. Because when that tweet went viral, the one questioning whether people even have the right to demand answers, it shifted the energy instantly. The focus moved away from just analyzing words and clips and toward something far more uncomfortable. Who actually owns a person's narrative? For a moment, people stopped arguing about what was said and started arguing about whether anything needed to be said at all. Some voices stepped in, trying to slow things down, pushing the idea that not everything deserves a public explanation. That silence doesn't always equal guilt. That sometimes it's just exhaustion, just someone choosing not to perform for an audience that already made up its mind. And for a brief second, it almost worked. The intensity dipped, the noise softened, people started questioning their own role in the situation. But that calm didn't last. Because on the other side of the internet, the original question never went away. It only got louder. Why won't he just say it clearly? That one question kept everything alive. It became the anchor holding the entire situation in place. No matter how deep the conversation got, no matter how philosophical it became, it always circled back to that same point. Clarity, and the lack of it. Then something strange started happening. Accounts that had been pushing the strongest narratives, posting clips, breaking things down, leading the conversation, they began disappearing. Not one or two, multiple, posts deleted, threads wiped clean, pages switching to private without warning. And that's when the energy shifted again. Because when information starts vanishing, people don't calm down. They get suspicious. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't just about what was being said anymore. It became about what was being removed, what wasn't visible, what might be happening behind the scenes. People started asking different questions now. Are they backing off or being told to? Why delete everything if you were so sure? Who stepped in? And just like that, a new layer formed, one that had nothing to do with clips or rumors and everything to do with control. Because once people believe there's something hidden, the story stops being predictable. It becomes unstable. And in that instability, theories multiply fast. Some believed the accounts were exposed and quietly backed out. Others were convinced something bigger was happening behind closed doors, conversations, pressure, maybe even legal moves that never make it to the public eye. No one had proof. But that didn't matter, because at this stage, perception was already stronger than facts. Then came the moment nobody saw coming. Late at night, when things had finally started to slow down, a new video surfaced. Not from random pages, not from gossip accounts, but from a source people believed was directly connected. And instantly, everything locked in again. This time there was no build-up, no gradual spread, just immediate attention. Because this felt different. This felt intentional. In the video, he spoke. Not emotionally, not aggressively, not like someone trying to defend themselves or shut anything down. Just calm, controlled, measured, and that alone changed the tone. For the first time, it didn't feel like the internet speaking for him. It felt like him choosing to speak. But then came the line, the one that would instantly become the center of everything. People going to be who they are, and people going to say what they want to say. That was it. No clarification, no labels, no confirmation, no denial. Just that. And somehow, that made everything worse. Because now, instead of guessing what he might say, people were reacting to what he actually said, and still couldn't agree on what it meant. Some took it as acceptance, a quiet acknowledgement without needing to explain. Others saw it as avoidance, a way to address everything without really addressing anything. Some believed it was about privacy, a statement that he doesn't owe the internet an explanation. Others believed it was something deeper, something coded, a message that only makes sense depending on how you hear it. And just like that, the situation flipped one more time. Because now, it wasn't about rumors anymore. It was about interpretation. And interpretation, that's where things become impossible to control. Because when millions of people hear the same words and walk away with completely different meanings, there's no longer one version of the story. There are dozens, hundreds, and every single one feels real to the person who believes it. Then almost immediately after, another shift. The insider accounts gone. The threads deleted. The so-called receipts nowhere to be found. And that silence, it didn't bring closure. It created even more questions. Were those accounts lying? Did they get exposed? Or did someone step in and shut everything down before it went further? Nobody knew. But the uncertainty made everything feel heavier. More serious. Because when things disappear like that, it suggests something bigger might be happening outside of what we can see. And that idea spread fast. Faster than any clip or rumor ever did. Now people weren't just watching anymore. They were speculating about control, influence, and what might be happening behind the scenes. And that's when the situation reached its most unsettling point. Because despite everything, every clip, every debate, every so-called piece of evidence, nothing had actually been confirmed. Not officially, not directly, and yet the impact was already done. Because perception doesn't wait for proof. Once it shifts, it stays. Whether people believe the rumors or not doesn't even matter anymore. The conversation itself changed how people see everything. And once that happens, it's almost impossible to reverse. Now the only question left is the one nobody can answer yet. Was that the final word? Or just another move in something bigger? Because if that was truly his way of addressing everything, then maybe this is where it ends. Quietly, unresolved, left open. But if it was, if there are still more clips, more voices, more pieces waiting to surface. Then this isn't over. Not even close. And whatever comes next won't just restart the conversation. It might completely redefine it. So now it comes down to you. After everything, where do you stand? Was that a real response? Or a calculated one? Was it about privacy? Or something deeper that people are only starting to understand? Because right now, the internet is split in ways it hasn't been in a long time. Some people think everything just changed. Others think nothing changed at all. But one thing is certain. This story didn't end with that video. It just reached a point where nobody knows what comes next. And in situations like this, that's when things get the most unpredictable. And if you want real-time breakdowns, the moments everyone's talking about, and the details most people completely miss, make sure you subscribe and turn those notifications on. Because the way this is moving, it's unpredictable. Another clip could surface. Another statement could drop. Or something completely unexpected could shift the entire narrative overnight. And when it does, you already know. We're going to be on it immediately, breaking it down piece by piece. So stay locked in. Because this story, it's not slowing down. It's just getting started.